For more than 2 decades, Saddam Hussein ruled Iraq, while his regime wiped out entire communities. The ruler once seemed untouchable. Then the regime collapsed. He faced trial, and the court ordered his execution. Its recording reached viewers worldwide and sparked dispute. Behind that public ending stood a man born on April 28, 1937, in Al-Auja, a small village near Tikrit. It lay about 140 kilometers north of Baghdad. His family were poor peasant farmers. Poverty marked his early years. In 1957, Saddam Hussein joined the underground Baath Party, which promoted Arab nationalism, socialist policies, and a secular union of Arab countries. 1 year later, after killing his communist brother-in-law, he was arrested. He spent 6 months in prison. Once free, Saddam joined gunmen waiting for Abdel Karim Qasim's car in central Baghdad. On October 7, 1959, they opened fire. Dozens of shots struck the vehicle. Qasim survived. Saddam took a bullet in the leg and fled Iraq. He eventually reached Egypt, where he lived in exile for several years. The Baath Party later gained greater political power. Saddam returned and spent the next 20 years rising through its ranks. He removed rivals and strengthened his position inside the party. In 1979, aged 42, he forced Ahmad Hassan al-Bakr to resign as president. Saddam then took control of Iraq. Within weeks, he accused dozens of senior Baath officials of plotting against him. Many were arrested. Several were executed. The party purge spread into wider control. Saddam relied on secret police, intelligence offices, and informants who watched Iraq's population closely. Doors closed. Reports moved upward. Trusted relatives and men from Tikrit took the most powerful military and intelligence posts. Members of the Albu Nasir tribe stood among them. Power narrowed around one hometown. People later called that concentration Tikriti dominance. Senior authorities stayed with relatives and men tied to Saddam's own area. That control came before the next decision. In 1980, Iraq invaded neighboring Iran and began a war that lasted 8 years. Columns crossed the border. The fighting killed an estimated 500,000 people on both sides. Near the end of the Iran-Iraq war, Saddam Hussein ordered the Anfal campaign in 1988. Iraqi forces moved against Kurdish communities in the north. They destroyed villages, carried out mass killings, and used chemical weapons against civilians. In Halabja, poison gas covered the town and killed thousands of civilians in a single day. Halabja came later, but Dujail also led toward Saddam Hussein's trial. On July 8, 1982, his convoy entered Dujail, a farming town 60 kilometers north of Baghdad. Most residents were Shia Muslims, and many opposed Saddam Hussein's government. Gunmen from the Islamic Dawa Party opened fire as the vehicles passed through town. Saddam Hussein escaped without injury. Iraqi security forces then surrounded Dujail and sealed off the town. The operation continued through the following days and weeks. Bulldozers crossed farmland, destroying fields that supported the incomes of local families. They also tore through orchards, removing another source of income from Dujail's households. The response reached farms, gardens, and the families who depended on them. Hundreds of residents were arrested, including women, children, and toddlers. Security forces took them to prisons, including detention centers deep in Iraq's southern desert. Many remained there for years without a formal charge. The arrests went beyond the gunmen who fired on the convoy. Dujail's families now faced prisons far from home. 148 men and boys eventually appeared before Saddam Hussein's revolutionary court. The special court dealt with people accused of threatening his government. Its proceedings ended with death sentences for all 148 defendants. Many were executed soon afterward. The Revolutionary Court condemned 148 men and boys from Dujail to death. More than 2 decades after the Dujail verdicts, the United States and its allies invaded Iraq on March 20, 2003. Before the attack, the United States government told the United Nations and the public that Saddam Hussein possessed weapons of mass destruction. Investigators searched Iraq after the war. they found none. Hours after the first bombs hit Baghdad, Saddam appeared on Iraqi state television and told Iraqis the invasion would fail. Coalition columns were already moving north from Kuwait. Iraq's army looked large on paper, but coalition troops reached Baghdad in about 3 weeks. On April 9, 2003, a crowd gathered in Firdaus Square in central Baghdad. A United States Marine armored recovery vehicle helped pull down Saddam Hussein's huge bronze statue. Television stations broadcast the fall live around the world. Later historians noted the crowd was smaller than the television image suggested. Baghdad had fallen, but Saddam Hussein had vanished. For 8 months, he moved between safe houses and concealed locations across Iraq. A small circle of aides, friends, and relatives kept him hidden. The United States offered $25 million for information leading to his arrest. Information from people close to him changed the search on December 13, 2003. Soldiers from the United States 4th Infantry Division moved with Special Operations Forces toward a farmhouse outside Ad-Dor near Tikrit. There they found the hiding place. A rug covered it. Bricks and loose earth concealed a narrow pit about 2 meters deep. It held barely enough space for one person to lie inside. Saddam Hussein was inside. He had a pistol. It stayed unfired. He offered no resistance as the soldiers arrested him. With Saddam Hussein in custody, American troops moved him to Camp Cropper beside Baghdad International Airport. Aircraft noise crossed the prison grounds. The United States ran the camp, where it also held senior Baath Party officials captured earlier that year. American forces had issued a deck of playing cards to identify Iraq's most wanted leaders. Saddam Hussein was the ace of spades. Several men in Camp Cropper had appeared in that deck. He spent nearly 2 years there before he first entered an Iraqi courtroom. Trial plans had begun before his capture. On December 9, 2003, the Coalition Provisional Authority created the Iraqi Special Tribunal. 5 Iraqi judges sat on the court. It had authority over war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide committed since the early 1980s. American legal advisors helped arrange the tribunal, but Iraqi judges would conduct the proceedings under an Iraqi court. 5 Iraqi judges received a case whose key orders already existed on paper. Dujail. Prosecutors put it before the larger Anfal campaign against the Kurds. The choice was practical. Dujail left clear documents, signed government orders, and fewer victims. That record gave the prosecution a case it could present more directly in court. The hearings opened on October 19, 2005, inside Baghdad's Green Zone. Blast walls and checkpoints enclosed the court building. Baghdad was facing an armed insurgency. Coalition offices and the Iraqi government stood in the same guarded district. Saddam Hussein faced trial with 7 former officials. His half-brother, Barzan Ibrahim al-Tikriti, had led the Mukhabarat during the Dujail crackdown. Awad Hamed al-Bandar had been chief judge of the Revolutionary Court. That court sentenced 148 men and boys from Dujail to death in 1982. On October 19th, the proceedings began with Saddam and 7 former officials in the dock. Inside the courtroom, Saddam Hussein claimed Iraq's presidency and rejected the court's right to try him. He interrupted the hearings. He called the court illegal under an American-backed occupation and used his appearances to denounce that occupation. Outside the Green Zone, his defense team faced attacks. Soon after the hearings opened, Sadoun al-Janabi was abducted from his office and killed. Weeks later, another defense lawyer suffered a gunshot wound. On the 21st of June, 2006, Khamis al-Obeidi was abducted and killed. He led Saddam's defense. He was the 3rd defense member killed during the trial. The violence reached the proceedings themselves. In January 2006, Chief Judge Rizgar Mohammed Amin resigned after criticism that Saddam spoke too freely. His replacement then clashed with other judges, delaying the hearings for nearly a week. The court resumed on the 29th of January. Saddam declared a hunger strike after the killings, saying his lawyers lacked protection. It lasted 19 days. That 19-day protest did not stop the case. Prosecutors returned to a document dated February 28, 2006. It approved death sentences for 148 people from Dujail. Prosecutors said Saddam Hussein had signed it. Witnesses could be challenged in court. The document tied his name directly to the executions. Chief Prosecutor Jafar al-Musawi demanded death sentences for Saddam and 4 co-defendants. Barzan al-Tikriti stood among them. Awad al-Bandar did too. The hearing had already lasted more than a year. On November 5, 2006, the tribunal read its verdict. Judges found Saddam guilty of crimes against humanity for the Dujail killings. He rose during the reading. He shouted his protest and again rejected the tribunal's authority. The tribunal sentenced Saddam Hussein to death by hanging. Barzan al-Tikriti and Awad al-Bandar received death sentences as well. A mandatory appeal had to follow. The mandatory review did not open another path for Saddam Hussein. On December 26, 2006, Iraq's highest appeals court upheld his death sentence and rejected his appeal. 9 judges took that decision. Judge Arif Shaheen then announced the next deadline. Iraqi law required the execution within 30 days. Many legal experts had expected lawyers to argue over procedure for years, delaying the sentence. That did not happen. Once the appeals court ruled, Saddam had no further legal appeal available. Iraqi law required every death sentence to reach that higher court, and its review had now ended. One document still remained. Iraq's president had to add a formal signature before the execution could proceed. Yet the president could neither stop the sentence nor reduce it after the court's decision. The signature completed the procedure. It did not alter the sentence. With no appeal left, Saddam sent a letter published 2 days before his execution. The Arab socialist Baath Party posted it on December 28, 2006. Saddam urged Iraqis not to seek revenge against ordinary citizens of countries that joined the 2003 invasion. He placed responsibility on the political leaders who ordered the war. His lawyer, Khalil al-Dulaimi, described the letter as a call for unity. Saddam also urged supporters not to add to the violence between Sunni and Shia communities. Fighting between those communities was already spreading. The letter changed nothing in court. Saddam asked for a firing squad instead of hanging, citing his former role as Iraq's commander-in-chief. Iraqi authorities refused the request. The court had ordered hanging. The execution was set for early morning on December 30, 2006. That date was the first day of Eid al-Adha, one of Islam's 2 major holidays. Many Sunni Muslims later criticized the timing as disrespectful. The sentence kept its method: hanging, early on December 30th. Once the documents were complete, the decision left the court papers and entered Iraqi hands. Nouri al-Maliki's office ordered the execution to proceed at Camp Justice. No new hearing followed. The decision now concerned time and place. Camp Justice stood in the Qasemain area of northeastern Baghdad. It was a joint Iraqi-American military base. The building chosen for the execution had once housed Iraq's military intelligence headquarters under Saddam. His government had used those rooms. The site linked the gallows to an earlier state institution. A senior Iraqi official later said American officials wanted a delay of about 15 days. They reportedly wanted greater care with the process. But the Iraqi Prime Minister's office acted once the papers were finished. The United States did not stop the execution. At around 6 in the morning local time, Saddam was brought to the gallows. The executioners were Iraqi. They placed a rope around his neck. He was executed alone, separate from the other men convicted with him. Barzan al-Tikriti and Awad al-Bandar did not go to the gallows that morning. Iraqi authorities executed them together on January 15, 2007. Ali Hassan al-Majid, Saddam's cousin, was executed on January 25, 2010. Around 6 in the morning, Iraqi executioners placed the rope around Saddam's neck at the gallows.
The rope was already in place when Iraqi authorities released their official recording. It showed Saddam walking calmly toward the gallows. The noose settled around his neck. Then the recording stopped, seconds before the trapdoor opened. The footage presented a controlled procedure, but a mobile phone inside the room recorded what the official camera omitted. Someone filmed in secret as Saddam stood at the gallows. Voices mocked him. Several people chanted the name of Muqtada al-Sadr. Within hours, the phone recording spread online and reached news organizations worldwide. Its image changed the account of the execution. The official video ended before the trapdoor opened. The leaked recording continued after it did, preserving the moment Saddam was executed. 3 days later, on January 3, 2007, Iraqi authorities arrested a prison guard over the unauthorized phone recording. The guard worked for Iraq's Justice Ministry. Hashim Abdurrahman al-Shibli, a Sunni official, led that ministry. Suspicion then moved beyond the phone itself. Some Iraqis believed political rivals inside the government had allowed the footage to escape. The recording carried voices from the gallows. It also carried political consequences. Critics feared the leak could deepen tension between Sunni and Shia Muslims by turning Saddam's execution into a weapon. No group was publicly established as the source. On January 19th, Muqtada al-Sadr addressed the dispute in an interview with the Italian newspaper La Repubblica. He said the men chanting his name in the video had been paid to embarrass him. Al-Sadr also said the footage aimed to make Iraq's Sunni community see him as its enemy. Washington voiced its own criticism. On January 4th, President George W. Bush said he wished the execution had been carried out with more dignity. 12 days later, Bush spoke with journalist Jim Lehrer on television. His judgment was direct. The leaked recording made the execution look like revenge, not a legal punishment carried out by the state. While the argument over the recording continued, a United States military helicopter carried Saddam's body from Baghdad to Tikrit before dawn. It reached Al-Auja at about 4 o'clock on the morning of December 31, 2006. Iraqi officials handed the body to Sheikh Ali al-Nida. He led Saddam's Abu Nasir tribe. He was also governor of Saladin province. The burial took place in the family cemetery. Saddam lay inside an octagonal building beneath a large dome. He had ordered its construction during the 1980s for religious gatherings at the site. The helicopter had completed the final transfer. The grave stood about 3 kilometers from those of Uday and Qusay Hussein. American forces killed both sons during a gun battle in Mosul in July 2003. For survivors of Dujail, Anfal, and the crushed Shia uprisings, the burial closed years of prison, fear, and loss. Others faced an uncertain future after his execution. Saddam was buried in the Al-Auja family cemetery, about 3 kilometers from his sons' graves.